People say love builds empires. But sometimes, love destroys the person who built it. When I met Lucas, he wasn't a CEO. He wasn't influential, powerful, or respected. He was just a dreamer. A boy with messy hair, second-hand shoes, and ambition large enough to swallow the world. And I fell for that ambition like it was poetry. We met in college, in a dusty library corner. He was arguing with a business textbook, literally arguing, saying, "Dreams don't live in spreadsheets." I laughed. He looked up. And that was it. The spark. The start. We were broke, but we were happy. 2 kids sharing a cheap apartment, ramen dinners, and hopes we whispered into each other's chests at night. He told me, "When I make it big, you'll never work another day. I'll give you the world." Funny thing, I didn't want the world, I just wanted us. And for a while that was enough. We would dream on the balcony of that tiny apartment, knees touching, cheap blanket around our shoulders. Not fancy, not glamorous, just pure. Sometimes happiness feels so soft, you don't realize it's fragile. Voice softens. Back then, if someone told me this love would become my greatest heartbreak and my greatest power, I would have laughed and believed Lucas when he said he'd love me forever. But forever is a dangerous word, especially when spoken by someone who only loves himself. While other girls bought shoes and vacations, I bought software, business courses and groceries for 2. I wasn't just his wife, I was his support system, his finance manager, his marketing team, his cheerleader, his stability. He would brainstorm ideas. I would turn them into plans. He talked big. I worked big. He'd say, "One day people will know my name." And I would smile and answer, "Our name." We started our tech marketing company from our living room. Coffee-stained notebooks, late-night strategy talks, zero glamour. I learned coding basics for him. I learned accounting for him. I skipped sleep and built investor decks while he slept. Every success felt like ours. Every failure felt like mine. When the first investor laughed at him, I held his hand. When the 5th investor rejected him, I told him he was brilliant. When he doubted himself, I reminded him who he was. Years passed, and the world finally noticed the genius I always saw in him. Revenue grew, press came, investors lined up, interviews, magazines, awards. Lucas became somebody, and slowly, I became nobody. See, success didn't expose who he became. It exposed who he always was, a man who loved ambition more than loyalty, power more than partnership, himself more than me. But back then I didn't see the cracks. I was too busy celebrating us, while he was already building a life without me. Her name was Sophia. Elegant, confident, corporate cool. The type who speaks softly but plays dirty. He called her the key to scaling the company. I welcomed her, the way loyal wives do. I trusted her, the way naive wives do. At first, nothing seemed wrong. She worked late with him. Normal, right? Meetings without me? He said I was better at support tasks now. Suddenly his business cards read, Founder and CEO, and mine quietly changed to Operations Assistant Funny. Titles are small things, but they reveal big truths. Then came the whispers. His sudden gym obsession, new suit collection, hidden phone, extra cologne, private lunches, nights he didn't come home, and if I asked, the answer was always simple and cruel. Why are you so insecure? Insecure. That word men use when they're hiding monsters behind their backs. The truth wasn't loud. It was quiet. It dripped slowly, like poison. One night, he came home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. I stared. He didn't even pretend to hide it. He just smiled, like lies tasted sweet on his tongue. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat by the window watching the city lights, realizing something heartbreaking. You can love someone so deeply, you don't notice when they stop loving you back. But betrayal always makes noise eventually. And mine came the next morning, in the form of an unlocked laptop and emails that shattered my world. I always imagined betrayal would feel loud, like a scream or an explosion. But mine came in silence, a dim living room, a screen glowing in the dark, Lucas asleep upstairs, his laptop unlocked. I wasn't looking for proof. I wasn't searching for answers. I was just cleaning the way wives do, picking up the mug he left, closing tabs he forgot, and then I saw it. A message. Sophia. I loved last night. Same time tomorrow? Lucas. She's still clueless. Soon she'll be out for good. Clueless. Out. Like I was a problem to remove, not a wife. I scrolled. Page after page. Plans, lies, meetings without me, decisions about the company, my company, without me. And worst of all, pictures. Smiling. Hands intertwined. Hotel rooms. Her wearing my husband's shirt, the one I bought. That moment didn't break me. It killed a version of me, the girl who believed loyalty was always returned. I sat there frozen, not because I couldn't breathe, but because suddenly everything made sense. The coldness, the late nights, the business strategy meetings, my shrinking role, my disappearing title. I wasn't losing my husband. He was already gone. I was losing the illusion of who he was, and illusions hurt more than truth. But I didn't scream. I didn't confront him with rage. I whispered to myself, if he's planning my removal, I will plan my return. And I gently closed the laptop. Not a tear. Not yet. Tears are a gift. And he didn't deserve my grief. The next morning, I didn't behave like a wife discovering betrayal. I made breakfast, coffee, toast, eggs, sunny side up, just the way he liked. His favourite plate, his favourite mug. He walked down the stairs humming, as if he hadn't murdered our marriage in secret messages. He kissed my cheek casually, like he hadn't kissed someone else's body hours before. And I smiled back. Because sometimes the calmest people carry the loudest storms. He sat, ate, scrolled his phone, probably messaging her. I gently placed his laptop in front of him. He looked up. What's this? I answered softly. You forgot to close your tabs. His face drained of colour. His hand froze mid-air. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just asked one question. How long? He swallowed, eyes shifting. Then the coward spoke. Long enough that nothing you do matters anymore. Cruel, sharp, designed to cut. He didn't apologise. He didn't explain. He wanted to hurt me. He wanted me small. I set my fork down, looked him in the eyes. Thank you for telling me the truth. He scoffed. No guilt, only ego. You're emotional. You'll move on. It's business. And I need someone on my level. I stood up. And with a calm voice I never knew I had, I said, I built the ground you stand on, and someday you will fall through it. He laughed, That laugh will stay with me forever, mocking, confident, blind, because pride always laughs at fate, right before fate laughs back. 2 weeks later, karma didn't knock, it emailed, a legal notice, from his attorney, not mine, his. He was removing me from the company I funded, built, and bled for. They called me an emotional liability. Funny how men call you emotional when they fear your intelligence. His offer? A settlement so insulting, I've seen handbags worth more. I sat in a room full of suits. Lucas, Sophia, lawyers who saw me as a footnote. Lucas didn't even look guilty. He looked victorious. He leaned forward and said, "Let's be adults. Take the offer. Move on. Move on." Like I was an assistant being fired, not a woman being erased. I forced a smile. "Is that your final offer?" He smirked. "Take it or walk away with nothing." There's a moment when betrayal burns so deep you stop feeling pain. You feel clarity. I signed the document. Gasps in the room. He thought he won. He thought I was defeated. But I knew something he didn't. Sometimes you must lose on paper to win in life. I stood up, gathered my bag, and whispered in his ear, "Enjoy your company while it's still yours." Then I walked out, not broken, not hysterical, silent, and silence scares guilty people more than any scream ever could. I moved to a small apartment, not downtown, not fancy, just enough. Enough space to think. Enough silence to hear my own heartbeat again. At night, I cried on a kitchen floor, not because I missed him, but because I missed the woman I used to be. The one who believed loyalty meant something. The one who believed dreams were shared. The one who believed love was partnership, not sacrifice. But pain is a teacher, and heartbreak is a sculptor, and every tear carved a stronger version of me. I worked small jobs, consulting, freelance. People whispered, "Is that Lucas's ex-wife? The one who got pushed out?" Let them whisper. Whispers are fuel. Some nights my hands shook thinking about the future. But every morning I stood up anyway, because the opposite of giving up is not strength, it is choice. And I chose to rise. Not loudly, not quickly. Silently. Step by step. Building knowledge. Building connections. Building power. And while the world thought I had vanished, I was only becoming invisible enough to be dangerous. Silent women are not weak. Silent women are planning. And my plan was already forming. If Lucas wanted a world where I didn't exist, I would build a world where he couldn't survive. Healing doesn't start with strength. It starts with tiny decisions. Waking up, showering, eating, breathing without breaking. I wasn't rebuilding my life in one dramatic moment. I was reclaiming it through small victories. I enrolled in business seminars again. Anonymously, sat in back rows, took notes like a beginner, watched ambitious strangers chase the same world I once helped build. Sometimes I looked at them and wondered, was I ever that innocent? During breaks, people discussed their projects, their startups, their dreams. When they asked, "What do you do?" I didn't say I built a company that someone else now claims. I simply said, "I'm starting again." And somehow that truth felt powerful. Starting again isn't failure, it's evolution. I reached out to old business contacts, not as a desperate ex-founder, but as a quiet strategist. Some ignored me, Some offered pity, but a few, the ones who mattered, listened. They saw that my fire hadn't died. It had simply learned to burn in silence. I told no one my plan, because revenge whispered too loudly inside my heart to be spoken. I didn't want him ruined quickly. Quick endings satisfy anger, not justice. I wanted him to watch my rise, inch by inch, breath by breath, until the ground he stole from me cracked underneath him. Change happened slowly, until one meeting changed everything. A retired investor, Mr. Hale, once admired our power couple story. He had known Lucas, had praised him, had trusted him. I expected pity. Instead, I got analysis. He looked at me and said, "So, you finally saw who he was. Not poor you. Not he fooled you. Just truth." I asked him, "Did you always know?" He shook his head. "I didn't see him clearly, because you covered his flaws with your strength." His words hit deeper than any betrayal. All my life, I didn't just support Lucas. I shielded him. From failure. From doubt. From responsibility. I carried the weight, and he wore the crown. I wasn't the powerless one. I was the architect. And now, that power was mine alone. Mr. Hale poured tea and continued. Destroying a man is easy. Replacing him in the world he built, now that's elegance. He leaned forward. Don't revenge like a storm. Revenge like the morning, quiet, certain, and impossible to stop. That became my philosophy. Not fast, not loud. I would rise like dawn. He introduced me to people, silently, carefully, old executives, angel investors, power players who valued intelligence over hype. They remembered the truth. I wasn't Lucas's wife. I was the strategist behind the empire. And in rooms where my name was once forgotten, it returned like thunder. I didn't build a company to compete with his. I built one to eclipse his. Different model. Cleaner tech, better team. Ethics, transparency, real strategy. Everything he lacked. Every night I worked until dawn. Not from desperation, but discipline. Financial forecasts, product planning, brand architecture, legal foundations, solid as stone. People joined me quietly, former employees who left Lucas's chaos, talent tired of ego-driven leadership, brilliant minds searching for purpose over pride. And slowly, my company breathed. Product demo, flawless. Investor reaction, stunned. Market potential, larger than we ever dreamed. For the first time in a long time, I felt alive again. Not because I wanted to beat Lucas, but because I remembered who I was before him. When you rediscover your power, revenge stops being your reason and becomes your bonus. My success wasn't to destroy him. It was to rebuild me. But destruction? Oh, that would come naturally, while I grew quietly. Lucas grew loudly. Events, articles, boastful interviews about expansion and leadership. But beneath the noise, his empire trembled. Employees started leaving. Clients complained. Deadlines failed. Investors whispered doubts. And Sophia, she didn't want to build anymore. She wanted spotlight. Control. Credit. They were two egos sharing one throne. And thrones built on greed crumble faster than love built on loyalty. Rumors reached me. Lucas seems stressed. Sophia wants more power. They say there's chaos at their HQ. I didn't celebrate. I observed. Every failure he faced wasn't revenge. It was simply his true leadership revealing itself, without me holding it up. When people asked me about their troubles, I smiled politely and said, "I hope they find clarity." But inside I felt something quiet, powerful, unstoppable. Justice doesn't need hands. It needs patience. It took time for Lucas to hear whispers about me. First rumours. She's consulting again. She's networking. She's rebuilding. Then shock. She founded a company. She raised funding. She has investors we want. And finally, panic. She's competing in the same market. I didn't speak about him. I didn't shout. I didn't even post revenge quotes. My silence became his fear. Sophia confronted him, they say. She didn't want a ghost in his past becoming a storm in his future, but Lucas was never good at handling pressure without me. He made reckless decisions, cut staff, tried to expand too fast, burned bridges. The world he built on arrogance began to shake, and when investors compared our companies, they didn't see his ex. They saw the real visionary. One by one, doors that once shut on me opened wider than ever. Lucas didn't lose because I attacked him. He lost because without me, he was just a man with ambition and no foundation. And the world finally learned that ambitious men are plenty, but visionary strategists? Rare. Revenge doesn't start with a fight. It starts with a signature. By the time Lucas heard my name again in boardrooms, it was too late. He didn't know I was behind the funding that reached his competitors. He didn't know I was the quiet hand advising the clients who left. He didn't know that the accountants who once audited us now answered my calls first. They say business is a battlefield. But real power doesn't carry a sword. It writes terms. My company was ready. Our tech was stronger. Our numbers were clean. Our team, loyal. And our investors, old and new, believed in the same truth. Ambition can win headlines. Character wins companies. Then my lawyer called one evening, voice steady, certain. It's time. They're open to a strategic acquisition. I stared at the city lights and felt nothing like rage. Just peace. Not because I would finally take back what was stolen, but because I didn't need to destroy him loudly to feel whole. The plan was simple. Form a separate holding entity, clean, quiet, unconnected to my public brand. Let the brokers do the talking. Let the numbers do the convincing. Let desperation do the rest. They were tired. He was bleeding trust. Sophia was hungry for more power than the company could feed. Investors wanted an exit that didn't burn their hands. And we gave them one, a generous offer with hard conditions written in ink that didn't smudge. My name wasn't on the front page, but my fingerprints were on every comma. The best revenge isn't a scream, it's a contract. The week before negotiations felt like a storm no one could see. We ran due diligence like surgeons. No cruelty, no panic, just facts. Licenses, patents, vendor contracts, IP assignments, staff agreements, investor preferences, debt covenants. We traced every number to its source, every promise to its proof. I learned something beautiful in that process. Truth is patient. It waits in documents. It waits in emails. It waits in the math. And the truth was clear. The company could be saved if someone with discipline, ethics, and vision led it. Not a man chasing applause, not a woman chasing a spotlight. Someone who knew what it takes to keep a ship steady in real water. At 3 a.m. on a Wednesday, I sat with Mr. Hale in a quiet conference room. He slid a folder toward me. "This is your final term sheet," he said. "You're not just buying a company. You're buying a stage. Don't speak like a victor. Speak like a leader." I breathed in slowly. I remembered the cheap apartment, the kitchen floor tears, the silence that taught me to stand again. I signed the term sheet. The sun hadn't risen yet, but dawn had already chosen a side. Negotiation day. They filled the room with suits and smiles that didn't reach the eyes. Polite greetings, perfume and paper, expensive watches, restless hands. Sophia arrived in a blazer sharp enough to cut a throat. Lucas arrived with that old arrogance, the one I used to soften for him. I stood behind the glass conference wall, out of sight for the opening. My attorney spoke first. The broker set the stage. Numbers danced, terms glowed, investors nodded. It was almost done before I walked in. When I entered, time bent, breaths caught. A pen stilled mid-air. Lucas blinked as if seeing a ghost. Sophia's lips parted, only slightly, but enough to show fear. I took my seat, not across from them, at the head of the table. "Good morning," I said. "Let's finish." No speeches, no drama, just completion. We moved through sections: purchase price, retention packages, transition timelines, PR language. Soft voices, clear eyes. The board glanced at one another, then at me. They didn't see his ex-wife. They saw a CEO. Midway through, Lucas tried to regain oxygen. "This is ridiculous," he said. "She's biased. She wants to dismantle what we built." I folded my hands. "No," I answered softly. "I want to fix what you broke." Silence again, the kind that moves papers without a breeze. Sophia leaned forward. "And what if we walk?" she said. I met her stare. "Then you keep bleeding until the market takes you apart, piece by piece." "Your clients already called us. Your staff already messaged us. Your runway is shorter than your pride." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten. I told the truth. Because truth is the only weapon that never misses. She looked down. Not to surrender, but because she realized her power lived where the money lived. And the money had already decided. Contracts slid to the center, pens clicked, hands shook. When the final signature dried, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not victory, alignment. The world had turned back to its correct angle. It would have been easy to humiliate him, to recite the emails, to throw pictures on a screen, to make betrayal do what betrayal loves to do, burn everyone in the room. But revenge is smarter when it's clean. We gathered the senior team and key investors in the main conference space. The walls were glass, the floor, polished stone. I stood at the front, not as a woman scorned, but as the owner of a future people could trust. "Thank you for coming," I said. "As of this morning, the acquisition is complete. We will stabilize operations, rebuild trust, and focus on the customers and team who still believe in our mission." I turned toward Lucas. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not in height, in truth. Lucas, I said gently, your transition package is in your email. Today is your last day. A murmur moved through the room like a quiet wave. He clenched his jaw. You can't do this, he hissed under his breath. I kept my voice level. I already did. He took a step toward me, then stopped. Because there are rooms where power doesn't need security. It needs certainty. And certainty stood beside me like an old friend. He tried one last trick, the laugh, the show, the thing he used to make people doubt their own spine. You're emotional, he said. You're still the same girl I trained. You're not built for this. I let the words hang there, not because they hurt, but because they didn't. I built this before you knew how to spell it, I said, and I'll lead it longer than your pride can survive the mirror. Sophia stared at him, then at me. In a different story, I might have fought her. In this one, I didn't need to. She turned away from him first, because power recognizes where it can still grow. Thank you, everyone, I said to the room. We'll have one-on-ones this afternoon. For now, go do the work. People stood. Some glanced between us, their old fear dissolving into something that looked like relief. Lucas didn't move. You'll regret this, he whispered. I picked up my notes. I already regretted loving someone who thought goodness was weakness, I said. This is simply math. Security didn't escort him. He walked himself out. And that was justice enough. Justice is loud for people who need noise. For me, it was the sound of a door closing gently and finally. I didn't leak the story. I didn't post a victory speech. I didn't even tell the world what he did. Because the loudest proof is always the life you live afterward. We kept the best people. We rebuilt trust with clients. We cleaned contracts, paid debts, fixed timelines. We did the work. At night, in my office, when the whole building fell quiet, I would sometimes stand by the window and look down at the city. The same city where I once felt invisible. The same city where I learned to be silent and survive. One evening, Mr. Hale joined me. How does it feel? He asked. I smiled. Not like revenge, I said. Like repair. He nodded. Good, because revenge ends the moment they leave the room. Repair lasts as long as your name does. Weeks passed, then months. We launched product updates. Our numbers were honest and strong. The team began to breathe again. Sophia. She stayed through transition, then left, cleanly, professionally. We didn't fight. We didn't need to. We were never really on the same road. And Lucas. He wrote a few venom-filled posts online. People read them. Then they looked at our work. The work spoke louder. One morning, I opened the old box from our first apartment. The coffee-stained notebooks, the napkin sketches, the dreams we once shared. I didn't cry. I thanked the young woman who believed in him, because she also taught me to believe in me. I closed the box and put it away. There are doors you don't lock out of fear. You lock them out of respect for the life you chose to build without what once lived behind them. I chose peace. And peace chose me back. If you're listening to this because someone betrayed you, hear me. You don't need to scream to be powerful. You don't need to humiliate to heal. You don't need to ruin them to rebuild you. Sometimes the most dangerous woman in the room is the one who knows how to stay silent long enough to write a better ending. Here is what I learned. Don't fight for a place at a table you built. Build a better table. Don't chase people who need you to be small. Grow where your soul can breathe. Don't measure revenge by how much they hurt. Measure justice by how much you heal. In the end, I didn't win because I bought his company. I won because I never sold my worth. And if this story finds you on a kitchen floor, somewhere between grief and anger, remember, you are not broken. You are becoming. Stand up slowly. Learn quietly. Move precisely. And let the dawn do what it always does. Return the light. If this story moved you, subscribe for more powerful, true-feeling stories of betrayal, justice, and rebirth. Comment one line so I know you were here. Silence is power. Take care of your heart. I'll see you in the next story.